Okay, everybody. Hi, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to day 293 of the Trump administration. Boo, yeah. And day 3, I think, no, I meant Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Day 6 of the next term of Lillian Brock Fleming and Tana Hamilton. So today we're going to go in reverse agenda order, and we're going to kick off with our speakers. And we have some important news to pass on to you today, so please don't rush out when the speakers are finished. I know that's your impulse, but before we get started, I wanted to mention 2 things. One, this is unscripted, so who knows how it's going to come out. The agreement in the Senate to end the shutdown. Everybody's going to be very excited about this, I think, because gratefully it will put SNAP benefits back in the hands of people who need it, and it will bring furloughed federal workers back to work. But I don't want anybody to forget that just this weekend, the President of the United States ordered any state that was attempting to find ways to fill the food needs of those SNAP beneficiaries, ordered them to stop doing it. So there is, that just want us to remember, that and keep that in the minds of people we talk to, because he's going to tout this as a great victory for Republicans. And right. Okay. So to Lillian's point, I just want to recognize that tomorrow is Veterans Day, when we want to honor everyone who served our country in uniform. My husband, Steve, was in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. And so even though he never comes to these meetings, don't ask me why. I guess he hears enough from me at other times. I'm sure we have, so I want to give him a shout out. And I'm sure we have some veterans with us today. So if you are a military veteran, I'd love it if you would stand up and be recognized. Thank you all for your service. Unfortunately, our president is not so grateful. His purge of high-ranking military women is disgraceful. Women who have commanded carrier groups in combat, women pilots who have flown F-16 fighter jets in combat, women who achieved a high rank and status because of their military experience, most in some periods of combat. The statement, if you can see it, you can be it, is increasingly more difficult to believe, as the role models in the military, whether women, minorities, gay, or immigrants, are being not only retired, but extinguished from its history. This from the same president who would not go into a French cemetery where nearly 2,300 Marines who died in World War II, and the names of another 1,060 who are missing were enshrined. Why? Because the bad weather might mess up his hair. And for one who claims to love the military, he certainly doesn't seem to have much respect for it. It is clear that his military purge is DEI related. The Black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is the most visible, but there have been dozens of others. He even went so far, I love this, he even went so far as to remove the photo of the Enola Gay and its heroic crew from the White House, wherever it was, in the White House or the Pentagon, because he felt gay was a reference to sexuality. I just love that. Early on in his reign of fire, he said the country would become a meritocracy. No more DEI hires. And he has certainly put those words, not the meritocracy part, of course, into action. Today, we have two great speakers to talk about DEI policy, the bill under consideration by the South Carolina Senate, and its impact on our community, our businesses, and our workers. So I'm going to turn it over to Roxanne to take us over there.
Okay, in response to the USDA threats about they threatened that if they didn't stop efforts to fully fund SNAP, that they pull federal funds out or whatever. Tony Evers had the greatest response. He's the governor of Wisconsin. He just wrote no. Oh God! All right. Before we get to the speakers, I want to remind you that questions and answers will follow our speakers. So as they are speaking and presenting, write your questions down on the little note cards that are at your table, and there are pens there too. And then at the appropriate time, if you hold them up, we'll collect them, and that'll help make their this presentation smoother. I also want to do a quick reminder about our food drive. We have a big box at headquarters on East Washington, and we're collecting not only food, but also donations to Harvest Hope. And my understanding is we're going to keep doing that through the end of the year to help people. I had a personal experience that was kind of touching the other day. Somebody called, and this lady was in a panic because her SNAP benefits were going to end the next day on Saturday. And she said, I have no food, no transportation, no family. I have a home health aide, but she can't go get the stuff for me because I have to go in person. And so I think when we're in our white privilege bubbles, just speaking for myself, I think that you're so insulated from that, you know, the SNAP benefits, you know, it's bad, but you can't. I think for me, we're the richest, greatest country on earth, and we're willing to let people starve to make a political point. And that is very upsetting to me. So please be generous and support this effort. And if you can help out food banks or whatever your favorite charity is, do that now, because this is all messed up. I mean, if they did the SNAP benefits tomorrow, it'll still take a month to fix it and catch up and all that. So it's going to be a mess through the holidays. Okay. Ken Gibson was born and raised in Greenville. After graduating with honors from the United States Military Academy at West Point, Ken served in the U.S. Army. He subsequently obtained his law degree from the Georgetown University Law Center in Washington, D.C. Ken spent the early part of his legal career at some of the most prestigious law firms in the world, but he's most proud, however, of the work he's done since opening his own law office in Greenville. Here he's been able to represent those members of the community who need help the most but are least able to access it. Ken currently represents District 3 on Greenville City Council. He's a former member of the City of Greenville Public Safety Citizen Review Board, the County of Greenville Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Board of Directors for Faces and Voices of Recovery in Greenville. Ken was born into a civil rights dynasty as the son of Dr. W.F. Gibson, who was national chair of the NAACP from 1985 to 1995, and Lottie Gibson, a founding member of Democratic Women of Greenville County and the representative of District 25 on Greenville County Council for more than 25 years. Ken truly walks in the shadow of giants, and we welcome him here today.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are well. I am extremely happy to be here in a county where often you're not sure how smart the people are around you. It is good to be surrounded by smart, capable people. I want to congratulate my council member, Lillian Fleming, and Tina Bell. Do you see Tina here?
She's on vacation.
Good. She probably deserves it. Trust me, there is no one that is happier at your victories than I. Given that I could have been in a position where I had to sit on council with the two people who are running against y'all, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how I would have taken it. So I've been asked to speak to you guys about DEI, and after me is going to come up my predecessor, on District 3, Jil Littlejohn Bostick. And you will be amazed by her because she is fantastic, and I miss her service. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to talk to you about, you know, just some basic concepts, talk to you about the current statute down in South Carolina, the legislature, where it sort of stands and the like, and go from there. At the outset, though, I will tell you this. Growing up in a civil rights family, diversity, equity, and inclusion have always been something that has been at the heart of what I want to see in this country. I believe that we are better with diversity. I believe that when we have differences of people's backgrounds, differences of people's perspectives, differences of people's opinions, that we are able to function better, that we create better policy together, that we can be more successful. And not only do I believe that, but quite frankly, if you look at all the studies that look at it, that have addressed it, companies and corporations and entities that embrace diversity outperform every other corporation that does not. And the reason why is because they are able to come up with better policies. They are able to see things around the corner that corporations or entities that have one single perspective cannot see. They are able to respond to crisis better than other organizations. So like I say, it is not just a matter of fairness and morality and all those things. If we are truly going to be the best that we can be, we have to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion in order to be able to get there. So how did we get in the predicament that we are in right now? And it happened because we elected an individual who should not be president as president. And he brought along with him a number of people who have been chomping at the bit to take our country back to a time where we are not the best that we can be, where we are backwards, and where we create situations where all of us cannot thrive, all of us cannot be successful. And as part of that, they passed, or President Trump signed, an executive order. It is Executive Order 14173 and is titled Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity, which quite frankly is probably the most fallacious title that I've ever seen in an executive order or any other type of legislation. It does everything but that. It destroys merit-based meritocracy. It destroys the ability to end illegal discrimination. It creates circumstances for which all of those things, those bad things, can prosper. Those bad things can grow and be nurtured and stuff like that. What this order specifically did was, first off, it revoked a number of prior executive orders which were designed to create fairness and equality in our society. There was an executive order which required that any person, any contractor who did significant business with the federal government, that they had to institute affirmative action policies and make sure that there was diversity within their workforce. That executive order was revoked. There was another executive order which created a diversity and inclusion initiative for the federal workforce. That executive order was revoked. There was an executive order on environmental justice, which required a consideration of where we put things that are noxious and stuff like that to make sure that they don't all end up in minority and underrepresented communities. That executive order was revoked. And finally, there was an executive order which was passed in 2014, which extended non-discrimination protections to include sexual orientation and gender identity for federal contractors. That executive order was revoked as well. It also directed federal agencies of the government to terminate any DEI programs that they have. So what that caused was a number of these secretaries to go out and do all kinds of crazy things to get rid of DEI. If you had a DEI office, they fired all the employees there. If there were pictures like she talked about the Enola Gay, they would get rid of them. At my alumni at my institution at West Point, there are a number of pictures of Black service members, Black cadets, and the like that were all removed in the name of getting rid of merit-based whatever that they claim. it has just been the most backwards thing in the world. For the private sector, it required that if you were a contractor and you did business with the government, that you had to sign a disclosure or a directive saying that you did not do any type of diversity, equity, or inclusion. And if you did such type of programs, if you had such type of programs, you would be precluded or prescribed from being able to get federal dollars. And I'm going to come back to that one because that applies to cities and municipalities and political subdivisions as well. And that's something that we're dealing with right now out of all these things. In addition to that, it got rid of affirmative action programs for women, minorities in federal contracting and in employment within the federal government and a number of other things and the like. So after President Trump signed this executive order, in search of a better term, lackeys from around the nation and all of the states and whatever and political subdivisions decided, hey, we should do the exact same thing. So in the state of South Carolina, our House and our Senate, there are members who created and put forth resolutions and statutes, bills rather, to enact those exact same types of things in our state government. The two things that the one that has progressed the most, and that's the one I'm going to sort of talk about today, is HR. Let me find this. I think it's 3892, but I want to be absolutely certain before I say that. I think it's HR 3892. And what that does is it basically prohibits any entity within the state, including political subdivisions like cities and counties and the like, from promoting diversity in any type of form whatsoever. When it started off, it was basically a copycat of the executive order that President Trump signed. But as it started to move through the process, it got a lot of backlash. And primarily it got backlash or effectively it got backlash from corporate interests. There were businesses who said, hey, this is, we cannot be placed under a circumstance where we're required to get rid of our diversity programs, because a lot of businesses understand exactly what I just told you at the beginning, that they perform better with DEI programs, that allows them to really succeed and be the best they can be. So when our legislature, our Republican legislators, got backlash from civil rights groups and the like, they ignored that. But when the business community started to holler about it, then they started to look at, okay, well, we need to make some changes. And ultimately what they did was they redefined what promoting diversity and inclusion is. And what before was a very broad, expansive definition, which included almost any type of program that you could do, but they changed it to solely ending, you can't do illegal discrimination efforts. And what that basically did was it gave everybody sort of an out to be able to say, well, my program is not illegal. But what it also did was it creates a chilling effect upon any company or entity trying to do anything in the future, or even aggressively pursuing the policies that you already have in place. And that's one of the primary concerns, that even though they've changed the language of it to make it more business friendly, more citizen friendly and the like, it still creates that same chilling effect where you end up with the programs, and many entities saying, it's just not worth dealing with this. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if the AG is going to come down and try to say that somehow we're, involved in illegal discrimination. We'll just get with the program ourselves. Other objections and problems that have been raised about these things are, for one, it violates free speech. It violates my ability to associate with the people that I want to associate. It violates my ability to put forth, encourage, and advocate for policies that I think would make my company better, my institution better, my city better, my county better, the state better. There's also various issues as far as separation of powers and whether or not the government, or whether or not a legislature or a president can do the types of things that they're doing. And then, of course, there are the the morality issues, and they're the issues that the effect that it actually has on individuals and groups and demographics that are being affected by it. As to where it stands status-wise, as far as legal concern, the executive order has been challenged in a number of courts, with some success, but also some backtracking. In Illinois, there has been a decision by a district court, and that was affirmed again just late this month, where the judge initiated a national ban on pretty much the entire part of that executive order that deals with contractors and private individuals and stuff like that. That is still at the district court level. I suspect that the government will be appealing that to the circuit there, and we'll find out shortly whether or not it gets upheld. There was a Maryland court, the Maryland judge, a district judge, who invalidated numerous portions of the executive order. But when it went before the Fourth Circuit, which is the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is our circuit here for the state of South Carolina, as well as North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, and West Virginia, the Fourth Circuit stayed that order. So it is still allowed to be put into effect while the case is proceeding through legislation. So that's the lay of the land of where we are right now and where we're sort of sitting. That the bill that is the HR bill down in the House passed the House back in April of this year. It currently will be proceeding to the Senate at some point for some consideration. And there's questions about whether or not it gets amended in a favorable way, or whether or not the Senate brings it back to the really problematic bill that it is. But right now, the action that's going to be happening in that particular circumstance is going to be in the state Senate. Now, back to the executive order, and for us in the city, because the state statute has not been enacted, that's not really been a concern for us at this point. The concern for us at this point, though, is that executive order that is still in place. We in the city don't get a ton of money from the federal government, but we do get some. And quite frankly, a lot of what we get addresses the issues of the least among us. For instance, we get significant, for the communities that they affect, we get significant numbers of money, amounts of money to deal with issues such as helping someone fix their house if and they can't afford to do so. We have programs that provide community services in our underprivileged neighborhoods. They are in large part funded by federal dollars. We have community policing programs, which are also funded by federal dollars. The problem for us, though, is that sometime soon, and it's sort of been moved back because of the shutdown, but sometime soon, our city manager is going to have, in order to be able to continue to get those dollars, our city manager is going to have to sign a disclosure that says that we do not do any type of DEI, diversity, or anything like that. The thing, though, is we do diversity and DEI. And in our economic development plan that we passed as a city, our council made a specific part of that, addressing the diversity and the disparity issues that exist within the economy of the city. We have programs that are on our website that give preferences and point preferences to either women contractors or minority contractors in order to try to fix those things. And we have a number of other programs which are designed to address those issues and promote diversity and the like. If we are forced to sign that, or if we are forced to comply with that executive order, we are going to have to make a decision on whether or not we forego those federal dollars, the ones that help our communities that need it most, or make some type of action as regards to our DEI programs. And it is not a position that I enjoy or want to be in at all. Because on the one hand, there is no greater proponent of diversity and economic equity and inclusion than I am and Councilmember Fleming are. But at the same token, we realize that the communities in which we serve in our districts are the ones that are going to be hit the hardest if we are forced to give up those dollars. So that's the predicament that we find the city in. So I'm going to let you introduce Jil, because you'll do a much better job than I will do.
And again, if you have questions for Mr. Gibson, please jot them down and we will address those in momentarily. Jil Littlejohn Bostick is a corporate responsibility executive with over 20 years of leadership experience across public, private, and nonprofit sectors. She specializes in advancing equity and opportunity. Currently serving as Vice President of Corporate Responsibility and Inclusion and Executive Director of the Foundation at Winnebago Industries, Jil leads sustainability, inclusion, philanthropy, and values-based leadership initiatives across a portfolio of outdoor lifestyle brands. Jil currently serves on the boards of Outdoor Afro and Together Outdoors, where she contributes to strategy, governance, and sustainable growth. Jil is a TEDx speaker and a member of Chief, a private networking group for women executives. Jil was the Director of Inclusion and Diversity at Hubble Inc. and served for 10 years on Greenville City Council, including 4 as Mayor Pro Tem, where she championed community development and inclusive growth. I go back with Jil to the first race for City Council when she was just a little baby legislator. And it has been my pleasure to watch her grow and expand her portfolio. So please welcome Jil.
Hello, good afternoon. Well, I'm gonna start over because maybe y'all are asleep. Good afternoon. All right, so I am so excited to be here speaking to Democratic women. As Roxanne said, I started my career in politics with Democratic women. Democratic women are the ones who helped me get elected. So to each and every one of you that are here, who were there in the beginning, I just want to say thank you and I love you so much. So I just want to give that point of privilege. So Ken talked a lot about the laws, right? The implications, what happened and how we got here. I am going to give you some real talking points, some things that you can use in conversation, because how many of you have been in conversations with people and just quite frankly, they just sound stupid and they think they know what they're talking about. And, you know, and at some point you're just like, I'm just going to close my brain off because I'm losing brain cells as I talk to you, right? And so when I was thinking about what I would talk about today, I was like, how do I give them some nuggets, some points? Like I could give you a ton of facts, but I really want to give you a few things that like will stick with you. So when you get in those conversations, you can just kind of shut them down, right? And so, you know, I spent my entire career focused on, you know, helping underrepresented people have equal access, have equal opportunity. And, you know, and I'll tell you a story. I love hearing about Ken and I love the late Miss Lottie Gibson. She was my nemesis first and then she was my biggest fan. So, you know, I didn't grow up in a family of civil rights leaders. I grew up in a family that quite frankly struggled, right? I had 2 parents who were working addicts to alcoholism and drugs. You know, I know what it's like to live in a hotel, you know, and not have food to eat. I know what it's like to live in a house and not have lights and go to a food pantry to get food to eat. Like I had that lived experience. I know what it's like to look at people going up and down the street with not a hope, not a care, just hopeless, honestly, right? But my ticket, and the reason why I'm standing here now is because I always use my brain. I said, you know what? I may not have access to the people, but I'm going to go and I'm going to make straight A's. And I'm going to talk to any and everybody that talks to me. And I'm going to make it out of this situation that I'm in. I was telling my husband the other day, I said, never in a million years did the little girl who lived in a hotel think that she could be standing in the places in the rooms that she stands in today. Right. But because of diversity, equity and inclusion, not because I wasn't smart enough or, you know, I wasn't good enough or somebody gave me a pass, but because there were programs and opportunities that said, man, this girl has straight A's and, you know, my SAT score is in, but, you know, she has straight A's and she's volunteering in the community and she doesn't have a grandfather or an uncle or somebody on the board. But I think she has potential. And because of that, I was able to receive a full scholarship to Wofford College and graduate and get an opportunity to study abroad and get these experiences that I never would have had not there been an opportunity that leveled the playing field. And so when I think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I always like to give a few like really simple examples to help people understand what it is and what it's not. Because the narrative has changed. They have come up with the narrative of what it is. And quite frankly, it is so far from that, but they believe it. right? They believe the lies that they're telling themselves, but it's not that. So I'm gonna ask you guys a couple of questions, and I know Roxanne said we were supposed to wait to the end, but oh well. So how many of you listen to audiobooks, right? So most of the hands are up, right? Audiobooks were started for people who were blind because they could not read and they needed an opportunity to get the same information. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion. How many of you have ever like broke your foot or had a fracture, had to be in a wheelchair or on some type of, equipment to get around, right? I see hands going up. The curb cuts that we see in the sidewalks were made for people who were in wheelchairs or couldn't get around. But guess who else uses them? Mothers with strollers who are pushing their babies around. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so the narrative has changed. And so when I think about this bill and what it'll do for South Carolina, for the state of South Carolina, for the city of Greenville, for those of us that are in this room, it ultimately changes the way we look at it. When I look at my notes, I was thinking about, okay, this is a policy issue, right? Well, it's not a policy, it's just a people issue. That's right. And so one of the things that has happened in the political landscape right now is we've taken people out of the heart of the work that's being done. And we're putting words on paper and just saying, oh, well, this is what we're going to do. And we're taking the heart out of it. So that's the reason why I told you the story of how I started, because I want you to put a face to what's happening so that we can put the humanity back into diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so when I think about the bill, it limits, Ken talked about this, training programs across public institutions, state-funded organizations. It also restricts how public agencies and institutions can consider or even discuss race, gender, identity, or the historical context. I could spend a lot of time talking about the historical context of our state and what that does, but it also, one of the things that, because sometimes I think sometimes when I'm talking to people, they don't really care about the people. I'm just going to be frankly, right? They don't care about the heart or the people the way we talk about. So I like to make economic sense, right? Let me give you some numbers to it. If these bills go forward, then it also may require new reporting, new certification, new audits to confirm that these organizations and institutions are doing what they say that they shouldn't be doing. So you know what that means? More money, more taxpayer dollars. And so you're asking for something when you're supposed to be, oh, no more taxes. We want to keep things going for the economy, but you're adding a burden to the reporting status for what will happen if the bill passes. It also it removes, it changes how we talk about workplaces and how we acknowledge how we talk about those workplaces, right? And so I think that from a recruitment and retention standpoint, we'll have fewer tools to attract diverse talent to our state. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, although most people think I'm from Greenville, and I like that fact. But I came here at 18 years old to go to college. I went back to Atlanta for 2 years, and then I've spent my entire adult life in the state of South Carolina. And I would not be here if there weren't programs that attracted people to this area. And so when you think about economic development, economic growth, those opportunities, let's just be honest, right? I'm with friends and family, right? So when you think about the young people, Greenville might not be the top of their list of where they want to go. They may want to go to Atlanta or Charlotte. But when we have those programs that say, hey, we're a great city, we have great opportunities, we have great jobs, all of a sudden, they're like, well, maybe I do like Greenville. It's actually pretty cool because that's what happened to me. And so I think that when we think about struggling or, challenging to retain young professionals, so take out race, right? Because everybody wants to put race in it. And it's important. As a Black woman standing here, I think it's very important. But take the race out. Think about your grandchildren, right? Or your children, and you're wanting them to come to the area. Without these programs, this also impacts how they look at our state, how they look at our city. It also focuses on, mentorship and sponsorship, and Ken talked a lot about that. As I look in this room and I look at these faces, there are some of my mentors and sponsors and people who spoke for me when I wasn't at the table. And when you think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's what it is. Each of us has an obligation to speak up, to speak out, and to provide opportunities for people who we know they have talents and skills. But these bills are saying, well, you can't talk about that anymore. You know, I might know a great person who could do this or do that, but oh, that's DEI, so I can't talk about it. So we're not going to have the best of the best because we won't have everybody included in that pool. It also focuses on, you know, workplace culture and morale. When people can't be their full authentic selves, man, do you know how, you know, I always tell people, you know, I think about me, I always say, I always bring me wherever I go. Sometimes people like it, sometimes they don't, but they're going to get me either way. And so when people can't bring their authentic selves to the table, they're not going to be productive. They're not going to do their best. They're not going to stay. And so when you have a state that's talking about restricting how people show up, again, this goes back down to the bottom line. People want to be themselves. They want to feel seen, valued, and heard. And this law restricts that from happening. I think it also talks about the impact on education and public institutions, right? So colleges and universities are risking, you know, Ken talked about the city has to make some important decisions, and I would hate to be in your place, Dorothy, Lily, and Ken. I am praying for you because that is a difficult decision. And regardless of what decision you make, I know that you all are going to do what's best for our city. And there are going to be people that may not agree with whatever you have to do, but I know that that's going to happen. And I just wanted to say that publicly. But from the universities and colleges, like I won't get into the details, but we know of some colleges and universities in the local area who made some decisions based on what their staff said or how they talked about things. And I remember I was actually on a camping trip and I told somebody, I said, oh, I know that president. Oh no, he means this. He's not gonna say anything. He's gonna stand firm. And then the next day, those professors were gone. Right. And I still think that professor, that college president, I still think that he believes that. I still think that he has the best interest at heart, but he's got a difficult decision to make. Do you lose the funding for your university for one person over the masses of all the people that it'll help? And they're able to have that power because, and not this room, right? Because this room, I know y'all show up and y'all show out. So I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about the people who won't speak up, who don't contact their legislators, who don't ring the phone, who don't send the emails, who don't go down to Columbia. We have to show up because if we don't, they're going to be coming for us next. They're already coming for us, right? And so we can't sit in our little holes or, you know, as much as I like to lay in my bed and watch Law and Order and eat my ice cream and, you know, just pretend that nothing exists. Like we don't have that liberty. We have to speak up. And then the last piece that, you know, I'll say, because I think I'm over time, I'm trying to make sure I'm staying on time, is that, you know, we cannot grow as a state if we silence the voices and experiences of the people who live and work here. Right. We won't grow. You know, South Carolina, or I'll just pick on the city of Greenville, right? We're on every list. We're on all the top of the top lists. Mm-hmm. But if we continue down this road, we will no longer be on those lists, right? We will not be seen as a progressive city or a progressive state. And unfortunately, they're taking it out of our hands, right? And so we have to speak up and speak out about what matters. And then I will say the last thing I'll say is that when I think about, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, they're like, oh, it needs to be merit-based, right? And I'm like, well, it is merit-based because I'm the best of the best at what I do. And I'll put myself up against anybody, any day, right? But if we don't get the best of the best, all we get is the rest of the mess, which are the people who have been showing up. And so I really encourage you all to continue doing what you're doing. I know some days it may seem daunting. I encourage you to lean on your courage. Because I've had conversations with people, not necessarily in this room, but within the Democratic Party, especially when all this happened, and they were having conversations with family members, friends, people that they thought would be supportive, and they weren't. And so you get an opportunity to be in the room, to be a part of conversations where people may not be willing to say it out loud. And that's where I want you to really lean into your courage, lean into what you know is right, because regardless of the narrative that they've placed with this bill, if we don't continue to advance the pathways, open up the doors, open up the opportunities, make sure that people have the resources that they need to be successful, not giving them a handout, giving them a hand up, our state will suffer, our nation will suffer, and we will no longer be this great America that people think that we are. And so with that, I'll turn it over for questions.
Hey, just real quick while we're picking up questions, I did not see initially my colleague Dorothy Dow, who's in the house. Hey, Dorothy. And I also want to acknowledge well, Senator Allen was here. I think he had to leave, but he was here. So Senator Allen was here as well. And my diversity chief is here, who would have been way better at this than I, Brian Davis. So.
Okay, first one. What would the ramifications of signing the order to stop DEI and still continue? What would be the ramifications of signing the order to stop DEI but still continue to keep it in place?
The ramification would be that our city manager who has to sign it could be brought up on perjury charges. She could be prosecuted for signing a false statement, a false and fraudulent statement, and that would be the issue that we have to try to avoid.
Sounds like a pretty big issue.
Yeah, it's not a comfortable spot to be in at all.
Yeah. What are ways that South Carolina Dems are fighting back on DEI, and how is the organization, I think this is for me,
I'm thinking that same thing.
pushing this information out to members and harnessing our power. Well, we won't make these guys stand here and listen to me blather about that, but we will address that. So what are the ways that you see people in South Carolina pushing back against this?
Repeat your question.
I'm sorry.
I think the question is, what ways are people in South Carolina, specifically South Carolina Democrats, pushing back against this this proposed bill and the executive order? And I don't have every answer to that, but I can tell you there are a number of organizations which have reached out and are looking at various ways of trying to fight it. That includes the ACLU, that includes Southern Poverty Law Center, as well as the NAACP and other organizations along those lines. I can also tell you that I followed the debate on this fairly closely in the legislature, and there were a number of Democrats who fought it as best they could, who stood up and gave really, really great speeches. If you want to see a really, really impactful one, do a Google search for Jermaine Johnson. He gave a fabulous speech where he talked about the hypocrisy of the relationships that he had with fellow legislators on how they would claim to be his friend and claim to be in support of him, but were still supporting this legislation.
Do you see anything coming from the National Democratic Party on this issue?
What you want to see?
Oh, great. This is a interesting one. I mean, I have really close friends at the National Democratic Party level. I know that there are conversations that are happening. I'll say it this way. Here's what I believe. I believe that on the Republican side, that they got behind closed doors and they strategized and they came up with a plan and they didn't announce it. And then all of a sudden we had Project 2025. What I hope is happening is that there are additional people who aren't making a huge announcement, but they are being intentional and strategic and coming up with a plan that will allow us to really fight back. Not just fight back in terms of, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to put on a splash, but really being strategic and intentional, because I believe that when you announce every step that you make, you give the enemy an opportunity to combat it. And so I'm hoping that at the national level, that there are some really, really smart people that are really digging deep into the work and thinking about what's next. Because I think personally, I think that's the only way that we're going to be successful.
So I don't know if you can answer this, Ken, but what is the exact amount of money that the city receives from the feds? And in your opinion,
Dorothy.
Dorothy knows.
But
and in your opinion, is it possible to find the funding to replace it? You're lucky I'm here.
I know. Dorothy is the,
It's a great question.
she knows all the details.
No, it's some details. So when you talk about the community development block grant money, which includes home money, HOPWA money, these are a bunch of acronyms out of the federal government. It's really not that much. It hovers around $1 million or less. Now, I know, look at you with your drop draw. How about that? You know what it's based on? Census.
mhm.
You know why it's so low? Census response, but that's for another discussion. A bigger, so that's a hit, like Ken, Lillian, could we find $800,000 if we needed to replace it? We could find that. Something else would have to lose, but we could find that. What worries me a little bit more, is, for example, we apply every year for funding, for police body worn camera. Police body worn camera, I think, is really important. And we get it pretty much every year. Now, we wouldn't get that anymore. So now you're talking about another big chunk of money that's got to come out of the budget, because I think this council would say we've got to have police body worn camera on every police officer every time they're interacting with our constituents. I think this president could find a way. I don't know, but could find a way maybe to affect GTA funding for Greenlink, but that is a separate entity. Now you're getting into some bigger money. So I know this comes as a surprise, but it's not crystal clear what their intent is. So we have to presume the worst. But another thing that really troubles me, and Ken and I have talked about this a lot. Lillian's been busy, y'all, so we share. Busy. But there is a 5-point advantage in procurement on city contracts and women and minority-owned businesses. And this work was done before Ken and I got there. This was done by titans like Lillian and Jill. So if you're a women or minority-owned business, and the scoring is out of 100 on a city contract, you're spotted 5 points if you're a women or minority-owned business. Why? Because you're not all starting from the same point. You're not all starting at the same point on the starting line, right? That's equity. And if a policy like that went away, now you really are getting into the pockets of local contractors that we intentionally want to provide work. And oh, by the way, I don't know, but I would guess there are plenty of businesses that are 51% owned by their wives just to get that 5 points.
Yep.
Everywhere, regardless of race.
Yep.
So maybe we've been advantageous in getting you a jump on that contract, but now you're going to throw me right under that bus. So that's where I start to get concerned in the details. Sorry to take it.
That's
That's perfect.
Thank you.
okay, well, I want to thank you both. Again, I always forget to do this.
Oh.
Party.
Oh.
Not only do I forget, I'm clumsy about it, that goes to somebody.
I'm somebody.
You, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you both very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. I need a big bucket of balls to bring with me though.
Okay. All right, I said we had a big announcement to make, and so here it goes. Please write down any questions you might have about this, and I'll try to answer as many as possible. I don't want to take up too much time here, but the board and I are very excited to announce that beginning with the January 2026 meeting, we will be moving to Furman University. I knew Peggy would like that. You can walk there. We have had a great run here at the Kroc Center, and the board has been very grateful for their support over the several years that we've been here, especially David Hanna, the executive director. We went through a rough patch in 2024 when we thought we might lose our spot here, but the Kroc team found a way to keep us, for which we will always be grateful. However, our situation here is tenuous. Should the Salvation Army choose, they could kick us out at any time, regardless of our contract. And as we learned in August, it is possible for us to be booted by another activity. We can't be in a position to be looking for a new location in the middle of this crucial election year, and we cannot guarantee that even with a contract, that won't happen. On the other hand, Furman has made many concessions to us. They've lowered their pricing for the room, for the Shaw Hall where we'll be located, a full 50% to meet our budget.
All right.
They seem very anxious to have us there, and we see several opportunities. Financially, the difference is really insignificant. More importantly, we have an opportunity to build a relationship with Furman University, its scholars, experts, and students. Furman has a college Dems program that we'd like to explore that connection once we're on campus. We'll be in Shaw Hall at the Younts Conference Center, which you'll remember if you've been to any of the Straight Talk summer series that they have up there. The room is large and comfortable, can be expanded to meet our larger numbers when we have especially large meetings, as I hope we will. It has a great audio-visual setup, and there is, more to the point that you guys might all be interested, ample parking. I went up there a couple of weeks ago on a Monday at noon, and there was tons of parking right by the building. Short walk, and it was great. It'd be a lot better for a lot of people. The board recognizes that this move may present a hardship for some of our members and frequent attendees who don't drive or who don't want to drive that extra distance. Considering that, we are exploring ways to facilitate carpooling. So there'll be a lot more to come about that. One change, however, is we will not be allowed to bring our own food in, and we must use the Furman caterer. The food is good. The caterer is responsive to making accommodations for us. If anyone has a particular food requirement, not like me, I don't like seafood, I don't like this, that, or the other, but like you can't have any dairy. And there's dairy in a lot of different things. As an example, we can make arrangements with the staff for an exception. So please let me or another board member know if you have some kind of dietary requirement at that level that would warrant an exception. We know this is a big deal, big change, and we're going to do everything possible to make it a smooth transition. Dem Women has moved several times in the past to meet the growing needs of this group. We hope that Furman will be our home for the foreseeable future, and that this move will increase our footprint in the community and help us engage with the university and its students. We hope that you guys will be as excited as we are about this opportunity. Okay, Greenville and Spartanburg have worked very closely together for the past few years, and it's almost hard to separate them. Catherine Harvey is with us today. She's the county chair and a former candidate for Congress and for county council. And she's back wearing her county chair hat and going to talk to us a little bit about supporting the two runoff candidates.
Hi, everyone. I just came to say thank you because Greenville is always such a support system for what we're building in Spartanburg. We're learning from watching you mobilize and create paths for candidates and strategize, and it's working. So I wanted to share some good news. While I did not get the results I wanted in my county council race, we made waves on Tuesday night in our local community. And I think it's very important that we understand this across county lines. So I know of 17 democratically aligned candidates between Greenville and Spartanburg counties who ran for office on Tuesday night. That included my mayor. It included candidates for school board. We have 7 school districts. We had 140 candidates running in Spartanburg on Tuesday, okay? Not all of them were my cup of tea, but that is civic engagement. And so we've got to hold a candle to it, all right? So mayor, school board, city and town councils, Greenville City Council, which we needed and we did. Greenville Town Council, Greer Town Council, of the 17 candidates that I know of, 13 won outright. Okay, 13 won outright. Myself and a friend of mine who graduated from Emerge, South Carolina this year and ran her first race ever, won over 40% of a vote in an area that nobody thought could be competitive. Nobody. That is a massive movement for our community in an incredibly conservative district. And my race in particular, I closed the margin between last year and this year by 8.1%. So I want you to understand that there is no loss in these races. We just simply have not done it before. And the energy that you propel across that county line is felt, and we're going to bring it right back next year into the midterms because we are building together and people are paying attention. So the last 2 races we have, Dr. Octavia Amechi and Leslie Rogers are in a runoff. Dr. Amechi is running for the Commissioner of Public Works. She ran for Senate 12 last year, moved into city limits. This is a 6-year term protecting the health of our water, and she's running against a developer. She won 45% of the vote outright on Tuesday night. We have got to get her to the finish line. Fundraising is challenging for female candidates, especially female candidates of color, period. End of sentence. I am here to tell you I am pulling every ounce of my campaign support to her and Leslie right now. I'm going to pass out some flyers. She can win this on Tuesday, November 18th. If you're willing to offer any support, virtual phone banking, a small contribution, we're working to raise $8,000 for her. It's a citywide race and she got 45%. This is real. Leslie Rogers, first-time candidate in an open city council seat. She is a strategic planner, a director in a global sustainability industry. She is running against a dentist. I know them both. I know everybody that's running right now, but when I tell you it is time to support capable, qualified, and competent women where we can win, I mean right now.
Right.
And they've got a champ. So I'm bringing this across the line because we got our girls in there in Greenville. We've got people in these nonpartisan races in Spartanburg. These are 2 other nonpartisan races, right? Our council is as well. This is possible right now. So I'm here advocating on their behalf. We'd be so honored to have one more round of support. And I'm going to leave you with this. My team sat down with me, sorry, y'all.
Take your time. Take your time, sweetheart.
I'm just very proud of what we're building. Very proud. Sorry. My team sat down with me the morning after the race and they said, listen, if your end goal is to serve, then hear this. In the last 18 months, you have a clear mandate from the city of Greenville and the city of Spartanburg that they want you to serve.
That's right.
You just have to decide what you're going to do with it. I say that to you because I am not going anywhere. We have so much ahead of us. And if Tuesday night proved one thing, it's that people are ready. They just need to be given a path. The women that are running right now are running because I asked them to. And we are going to get them through this finish line.
Thank you, Catherine. And I'm pretty sure I can say unequivocally that them women will be behind you.
Okay.
So this is our last meeting of the year, as you know, and it's been a big year in many, many ways. On opposite ends of the joy spectrum, I admit. And it's time to celebrate our big win this year, holding the Democratic majority in City Council with two great candidates on the ballot. But in the words of our county chair, Stacy Mars, wins like this just don't happen. They happen because we work together, doing the boring, unheralded jobs of knocking on strangers' doors, calling their homes, writing postcards, and texting their phones. And more often than not, you talk to what? 10 people? 10% of the people that you call? You know, and I think that might be a good day. But how sweet it is when it pays off.
Yes.
It is not a waste of time. Every one of those calls matters. I was planning to announce the names of folks who worked for the Lily Ina campaigns, as I'm calling them, but I'm afraid I would leave somebody out. So if you worked in any way for Lillian or Tina, or both of them, that includes those of you who wrote postcards from home, who made calls from home. If you did anything at all, putting in the work, I'd like you to stand up. Don't be shy. Evelyn, you were standing in the back before. Where are you? Where'd you go? All right, Susan, would you do me a favor and bring that up here along with the cutter thingy? And does anybody in the room have a match? I forgot them.
Or a lighter.
Nobody's got a match or a lighter? Okay. So we've got a cake for our winners. Unfortunately, Tina can't be with us today because she is taking an extra day of vacation with her husband and her daughters, which I think she definitely deserves.
Yes.
But she will still hear you. So let's have a whooping round of applause for Lillian and Tina. Okay. Couple of quick announcements. Our annual holiday party will be held December 7th at Ink and Ivy from 2 to 5. The link to buy tickets is on your table, and it's also going to be in the Donkey's Tail and on the website, and you'll get lots of information about it. So we definitely want you to bring guests. Members can attend for free, and members can bring one guest, but you can have as many guests as you want. This is a chance to gather with our friends, with our tribe, and celebrate goodwill, and someday soon, maybe even peace on earth. In the meantime, while we're still waiting for that, on November 18th, the Senate committee will hold another hearing on the 2026 version of the abortion bill. There is no public comment, and they may even vote on it. Planned Parenthood is planning a rally outside the Grissett building, and I hope we will have some people going. I know I'm going. Evelyn's coming with me. I've got 2 more seats in my car, 3 if you're small. So let's organize some carpools and get some people over there to join the group and maximize our presence. It's that time of the meeting when we make unsuspecting newcomers stand up. And we do that because you're important to us. This month, we got 6 new members, and that brings our total to 409 members. So that's a 17% increase over 2025 when we ended the year with 345 members. However, hundred and forty-five of the 2024 members did not, only 145, excuse me, of the 2024 members re-up their 2025 membership. So in order to be where we are today, we had to grow the membership by more than 100%. So I want to thank everybody, and I want to definitely thank Kat, who's in charge of membership,
Yeah.
for her hard work. And if you are a new member and this is your first meeting, it's your turn in the barrel. Please stand up. I want to welcome Tammy Brown. Tammy is the maker of these bracelets, which she has graciously let us sell, and it's a great contribution and everybody loves them. So thank you, Tammy. I'd also like to encourage any of you who have been members in the past but are not now to please re-up. You get a free trip to the holiday party for one thing. But more important, your membership dues will make a difference in what we can do to flip seats in 2026. That's our mission, and we are going to accomplish it. With your help, we will launch local postcard campaigns. With your financial support, we'll have a more capability to financially support our strong slate of candidates for federal, state, and local positions. We'll launch paid digital media and social media campaigns to push content on Democratic issues to voters who never would otherwise see it. Who knows, we may even get a billboard. We're not saving for retirement. I mentioned that last year. You want your dues to count for something, and we are going to work hard to make that happen, to spend your money on multiple efforts to see that that happens. So we hope that you will consider re-upping. If you used to be a member, we welcome you back. Our next meeting is January 12th. That's our annual meeting. We have reports from all the board members on what we accomplished this year and what we're looking at next year. That meeting will be at Furman. And the open mic portion that we have will give you the opportunity to make suggestions, tell us what you liked, tell us what you didn't like, and propose ideas for 2026. We're a lot better when we all think together, bring it all together, and get everybody's ideas. So thank you very much for coming today. I love the program. I hope you did too. Drive safely going home, bus your tables, and we'll see you January 12th at Furman.